Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Silicon Insider podcast. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Good, Mike. Thank you.
Uh, Been a wild week for AI and crypto. But let's start with the other big news because I think it has larger long-term implications. The FTC lost its uh, antitrust suit against Meta. The decision was that, and this has been going on for years. This actually began in the first Trump administration, and it was all part of the anti, well, revenge for the censorship that went on, and also for just the resentment of large companies running away with, you know, wealth and control of the economy. So this went on and on and on, and the argument back then was Meta was a monopoly, especially with WhatsApp and all their other pieces, and like Instagram. Well, the world changes. Obviously, in the tech world, the world changes almost by the week, as we're going to see. By the time this case got adjudicated, Meta didn't look that important and a monopolistic element in the social networking world. You had TikTok, you had, a bunch of other companies, large and small, sharing the space. It was very hard now to argue that Meta was this juggernaut that couldn't be stopped because it's largely been halted. So the implications for this are this was supposed to be the bellwether case that if the FTC won this one, the Federal Trade Commission won this one, they would be open to go after other uh, big seven companies. Next would be Amazon. But now there's indications that with the precedent of the Meta decision, this all may end. And companies can now go, these giant companies can go on an acquisition spree or whatever they want to do. What do you think? What was your thoughts on this when you heard the news? Because you've been covering it from the beginning.
Yeah, I wasn't all that surprised. I would not have thought that Meta would have to spin off Instagram, especially, and WhatsApp, and largely because of what you said, Mike. I mean, the world has changed. And although for Meta to be as giant as they are and say, oh gosh, we're really, just a slave to competition is disingenuous. But I mean, TikTok is out there, X is out there, to a lesser extent, Blue Sky and some of these other companies are out there. So there is competition in the social world. Facebook is not what it is. It's a monolith, but it's not really grabbing the young people like Instagram and TikTok are. So I wasn't surprised that they didn't break up Meta. But I don't know if this means I don't know if this means that the FTC is completely toothless. I think that the fact that it even brought this up is encouraging because the government, after all, one of the reasons it exists is to protect consumers from monopolistic behavior. And so I expect more of these kind of cases. In the current environment, given the current administration, I don't think the tech companies have that much to worry about. But I do expect that every once in a while we'll see one of these come down the pike.
Yeah, we've seen this all throughout the history of the technology revolution, beginning with IBM, and it stalled IBM even after they won the case against Burroughs and Univac and all of that. They were running roughshod over the market, and it stalled them with this decision back in the late 60s, and it kept them from going into the PC market for several years. And it's interesting. Would the world have been a better place if IBM had been allowed at the same time as the Apple II was being introduced to introduce its own personal computer?
Well,
Did,
I mean,
did
you
the
know,
antitrust thing against IBM actually add to the quality of life uh, of the average American citizen? And that question's been asked ever since. And even Bill Gates said when Microsoft was acting like a monopoly. He said, yeah, we have 90% of the market in Windows, but no company in this industry ever stays on top that long. And he was right. I mean, competition with the world full of entrepreneurs and venture capital hungry for any opportunity, it's hard to believe that any firm can in tech can actually create a monopoly that lasts for more than, a couple of years.
Agreed. And that's what we're looking at right now with chip companies, with AI, still with social media. And so, right, I wasn't surprised at the decision. I think it really would have been quite the shakeup if Meta would have had to split off Instagram and WhatsApp, because that would have been perhaps a domino effect. And where would YouTube be? Would that have to be its own company? And et cetera, et cetera.
Uh, so you think the FTC will try one more time now again and do it against Amazon? They seem to be the next target. They're in the dock.
Possibly. I'd like to think the FTC will keep on trying. But again, the current administration is very pro-business, especially businesses, and Amazon fits this bill that have donated big money to President Trump. And so do I think Amazon's in any sort of trouble? No. Would I like to see an aggressive FTC? Absolutely, because that's good for consumers.
So let's brainstorm this. If the FTC went after Amazon, would they break up Amazon per se, or would they just force it to spin off the cloud, AWS, which is, almost a monopoly itself?
No,
Would
no,
that
I'd have
be?
to push back against that. I mean, AWS is big because Amazon is big. Azure is big because Microsoft is big.
Yeah,
Now, would we see more smaller companies like Cloudflare? Yeah, perhaps we would, and that would be healthy. With the AWS outage and then the Cloudflare outage earlier this week, we learned these are happening a little too often for comfort. And so perhaps more companies that were in the mix would mean that if one did go down or have a problem, whether internal or external, it wouldn't affect quite as much of the web as these things do. But these cloud companies get big because they're owned by giant software companies. I don't
yeah.
know if that changes if, say, an AWS gets spun off.
Okay, let's move on to the stock market this week. Okay, we talked last week about the possibility that a lot of the metrics of the economy didn't come out because of the government shutdown. And then there was concern that they would come out and they would affect the market. We had NVIDIA. We talked about that last week, that this was the week that was a make or break, basically, for the AI bubble. If NVIDIA didn't come out with good numbers, maybe this would be the end, and we'd be recovering and the market would be crashed and all of that. Well, NVIDIA grew 50%, which is just an astonishing number in revenues when you consider that it's a multi-trillion dollar company. 50% growth is trillions of dollars. So it managed to do it, and its stock went up 5% on Wednesday, which what you'd expect. But then today, Thursday, it fell by 3%. Meanwhile, the jobs report finally came out, and it did better than anybody and predicted. What 177,000 new jobs? I mean, this is all good news, and yet the market has been responding by, falling fast. And some people say it's because this good news means, we've seen this before, that the Federal Reserve won't cut rates in December, and other reasons. I mean, this all seems crazy, and now we have a famous market analyst saying, "Yeah, we're in a bubble, but that doesn't mean it's time to sell." And it's like, what does that mean? I mean, it's all kind of crazy. What do you think? Are you feeling this?
Well, yeah, I mean, but again, you and I look a little differently. I think, you're day to day more than I am. Sure, we got the government report, but we got it for September, and
Yeah.
we found out we're not going to get it for October. So if you want uncertainty in the markets, hey, let's start with an entire month and a half where we're just not going to know the job numbers because of this shutdown, and we're not going to recover. Those numbers are out there somewhere, but come on, we got it for September. Okay, the September numbers were good, even
Yeah.
though unemployment went up to 4.4%, highest level in a while nationally.
Right.
But I think that all gets in the wash. I think we reached on sort of the difference between Wednesday night and Thursday morning was just sort of like, we're still partying Wednesday night, and NVIDIA's up another 5%. And let's give NVIDIA credit. What was it, 57% growth with a forecast of 60% growth? These are eye-wateringly amazing numbers and good for NVIDIA. But when we wake up Thursday morning and the stock is still higher, people said, you know what? We haven't taken profits on this stock in a while. Let's do that. And while we're at it, apparently, a lot of people decided to do the same sort of thing over in crypto. And so you have two of the riskier things at the same time, AI and crypto, seeing signs, not of a massive sell off, but just of taking the top lower. And at some point, you even said it yourself, that kind of makes sense because so many people are saying that we're in a bubble. And if you're in a bubble, what do you not want? You don't want to be the last person out, right?
Oh no, those are the guys, men and women who go for that last 10% of gain, and they always get burned. So yeah, no, I think profit taking right now is a good idea. Apparently, it did it for uh, AMD too. Basically, the whole AI world. Uh,
Right. You had the other chip companies, AMD, Broadcom, certainly NVIDIA taken out. Intel even lost a little. And then you have the energy guys, your energy companies, your Bloom Energy, they were taken down. It's that whole AI sort of NVIDIA economy.
the
And
penumbra.
yeah,
Yes.
right. Which also hit some of the other, so-called Magnificent Seven, and it, crypto went down with it. So it's sort of that appetite for risk, and it comes and goes. And you know, we are in the kind of economy, apparently, and concern about risk that even when NVIDIA continues to knock it out of the park, some of these stocks go down quite suddenly in the midday. And I don't know what that says about the overall economy, but it just means even good numbers are not enough to keep this
Not
bubble.
enough.
Yeah.
Well, how about Jensen Huang's reassurance that the current generation Blackwell chips, the demand for it, are off the charts? Is that going to be reassuring? Will that move the market again?
Well, I don't know because he said that Wednesday night during the call. The stock continued to go up
Yeah, but
Thursday
he
morning.
also said there's no bubble.
Right. I mean, again, he's reassuring his company's numbers are stronger than ever, but a $5 trillion valuation. Um, let's think about this. If NVIDIA was all of a sudden tomorrow a $3 trillion company, that would be a 40% haircut, $2 trillion lost overnight. And you'd still have to look at this company and say, wow, they're an incredible success story.
Yeah, it's a ratio of between 12 zero numbers
Right.
numbers with 12 zeros. That's it. Okay, I want to mention the name of the guy. It's Ray Dalio of Bridgewater. And he said investors don't need to give up holdings just because they see an artificial bubble forming. He said there is a bubble, but don't worry about it. Don't sell yet.
I
I,
mean,
I think
sure, whatever,
I
but
think
I
either
don't know that.
that's going to come back to haunt him, or it's going to make him look like a genius in a few weeks.
I don't know. That's the thing. Within a few weeks, a lot can change. Sentiment can change. As we saw on Thursday, between Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon, sentiment can change. And, hundreds of billions of dollars in value can be lost because, as we've seen when stocks go up, when things go down, people kind of pile on.
Yeah.
And that should be a warning to you who are thinking of, just buying and holding through even strong numbers. Sometimes things go down and sometimes people take profits, and that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the estimate of today, the loss was about $1.5 trillion of market value. Okay, Elon Musk says that in 10 to 20 years, work will be optional and money will be irrelevant thanks to AI and robotics. Now, I was involved in a book a couple years ago that essentially predicted much the same thing. And then I basically was a co-author of another book 4 years ago that predicted the end of work. This is being said a lot. Even the First Lady of the United States in front of, you know, soldiers basically predicted the same thing, that it seems to be in the air now. The end of work and the end of money, the penny being being the first casualty, and the notion simultaneously of abundance, all made possible, universal abundance, where you won't have to work. You can just garden because you're on you're getting paid by, a machine somewhere, a guaranteed annual income, and the challenge in your life will be figuring out how to give it value. Uh, is any of this, do you believe any of this is coming within 10 to 20 years? I mean, Moore's Law, no, it
No,
doesn't
I don't.
say
I'll,
that.
I'll tell you why I don't believe this is coming is because part of it is here and it hasn't, and none of it has happened.
Yeah.
So people are saying, gosh, these machines are going to make so much money and be so efficient that we, the, huddled masses, won't need to work. But what we've seen over and over again with these technological advances that are incredible. I mean, you and I have made livings talking about them,
Right.
but the wealth that they've created have gone to a very small percentage of people.
Yeah.
And, I don't mean to get all socialist on you or anything, but that's the truth. And the minimum wage in America hasn't changed in a long, long time. Whereas the number of billions of dollars that the richest 1% has really grown. So if what, the First Lady was saying is true and what all this sort of Valhalla stuff is saying is true, we should have seen some of this already because we have created wealth at a level that we've never seen before. And yet it hasn't spread to the wide population. We still have to work. Those of us who are not in that small 1%, we still have to work. So if AI does better and makes more money, I mean, how much does it have to make? We've had 3, 4, $5 trillion companies,
Yeah.
and yet we still have to work. So I want to know what these people are talking about when they say companies will become so wealthy and so efficient and machines will do so much that we will just somehow get paid magically. I don't know how that happens.
Well, and there's another factor too, that maybe some of this wealth enhancement is being masked by the fact that inflation and the price of things operates in sync with that. It operates in tandem. So you're making $400,000 a year, but that $25,000 house is now $3.3 million.
Well, absolutely, because that's the other thing that has to happen for us not to have to work, is that we can still somehow afford things without making money. And none of these things have come true. The prices of things have not gone down. The minimum wage has not gone up. I don't know what these people are talking about. I mean, I know in theory what they're talking about, but there's no bearing in reality whatsoever. And you ask me, is this going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years? Why hasn't it happened in the last 10 to 20 or 30 years? Why not?
Yeah.
Because it's not destined to happen.
Well, we can comfort ourselves with the advancements in medicine, like CAT scans and MRIs and all of that. And the roads are safer now than they were. Uh, there's been some benefits, but I'm not
Oh, sure.
convinced that AI is going to liberate mankind from the drudgery of work. And even if it did, what would we replace it with? How would we spend our lives? Puttering in the garden? No,
Well,
we have to have intrinsic value to our lives.
I guess so. But I mean, look, people say retire and they find things to do and they find satisfaction in life without the regular 9 to 5 job. And I respect that and I hope to someday enjoy that. But what do they have to do for decades before that? They have to save so much money that they can afford to do that. It's not that when you reach 65 or 70, all of a sudden you don't have to work because the money is taken care of. You've had to save and work. And so the people who say, well, gosh, we just won't have to work because the money will take care of themselves are on a planet that I have not had the good fortune to inhabit yet. And I don't know that I ever will.
Yeah, and maybe that won't even be possible. Retiring. I just read a thing that said it will take multiple decades for the average New Yorker to raise the 10% down payment on a home. Now, New York's a very expensive place, but and we're seeing it around, well, we're seeing it around here, obviously. Kids are not buying houses.
Right.
They're not buying it in their 20s, in their 30s. Maybe they can pull it off in their 40s without and take on a lot of debt. But the things that were available to our parents, they got married at 21 and bought their first house at 25. That's gone. And so you may end up actually working past 65 just to raise the money to retire on because because it costs you so much to get there.
Right, but that's the reality. If you're a young person right now and you're thinking, "Oh, AI is going to take care of everything,"
Yeah.
I would suggest talk to someone a little older who has worked steadily and put money away, so that when they reach 65, they might be thinking, "Ah, now I don't have to work at least as much. I can do whatever my passion is and live out those lives happily because they have worked hard and saved money." And that's not a bad thing. I'm all in favor of
But
that. I
there's
just
intrinsic
don't
value in work.
Right. I just don't think the alternative scenario that some of these people are coming up with is anywhere near happening because, again, in the last 20 years, the amount of money that we have generated through technology and innovation and entrepreneurship and brilliance is incredible. But it hasn't meant that fewer people have had to work. So why would I believe that in the next 20 years we're going to get there? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and there's another theory that it actually creates more jobs, or it will create more jobs in the long run. That everyone's talking about, well, AI is going to take away the middle management and all that. But you look at the past technology revolutions, they ultimately added jobs. They weren't the same jobs, but they increased the workforce somewhere else.
True.
Okay, finally, you'll like this one. Did we do it again?
Nope. What am I going to like?
Oh, I'm seeing my screen just blanked out. Okay. Uh, there's a new teddy bear that just came out called a Folo Toy AI. And it apparently, the company that manufactured it, under pressure, has suspended its sale after the device, cute little teddy bear, AI enabled, because it was giving advice on bondage and S&M sex and where to find knives. We're seeing more and more of this renegade AI. Actually, the company claims it knew nothing about it, and just all of a sudden, it appeared because kids were asking interesting questions and getting very explicit answers.
Yeah, I'm not
Is
going to lie to you. Yeah, once you said teddy bear and AI, the two things I thought of were exactly what you said and the company saying, "Gosh, we had no idea." Those were the first two things that came to my mind
Yeah, and
because
that seems to be the answer to everything. Oh, we didn't know this was happening,
right.
but meanwhile, 100,000 kids have learned about bondage, uh,
Yeah, if you're going to
and they
manufacture
can't unlearn it, and they can't unlearn it. I mean, I think this is going to be a problem in the near future, a big
you
one.
think so? Yeah, I think every manufacturer of AI powered teddy bears needs to hire a tech reporter to say, "Hey, I can see the future. I know what's going to happen as soon as you release that product. What do you think? And
Well,
see if they still put it on the market.
well, then, Scott, there's your retirement.
I will advise stuffed animal companies that want to get into AI and say, I can see the future, and it's not pretty.
It's not pretty. Okay, that's it for now, folks. You can see Scott on X. Where else are you besides X, Instagram?
Instagram, sure. Yeah.
Instagram, yeah. I said this 5,000 times. And of course, you can watch them every night, every weeknight on NBC Bay Area. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.